Okay, so Bezras Hashem, we're continuing with the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom on the Idra Rabbah, and Rabbi Shimon is now going to clarify the warning that he made in the previous year. When Rabbi Shimon is Pasach va'amar Arur ha'ish asher ya'asa pesel u'masecha ma'ase yedei charash v'sham besater va'anu kol ha'am va'amru amen. That cursed is the individual who transforms the words of Torah into idols, that allows that idolatrous impulse to unfold through the words of Torah so that the Torah becomes something other than what it actually is, and it begins to create destruction within concealed places. So Rabbi Shimon is offering the warning of the translucency of self, of not bastardizing the teachings, not taking them from a place that they shouldn't be taken from, nor leading them to a place that they shouldn't be led to, but ensuring the bittul of the transmission of becoming a vessel to convey Pnimius HaTorah, to let the words flow through the individual, to open oneself up to the bittul, to sur me'ra va'aseh tov, to turn away from negativity and to focus on goodness. That is the prerequisite towards drawing down the lights of Torah in a kviistic way. Now Rabbi Shimon is going into explaining the second urgent matter that has to be considered, and that is limud haTorah lishma. That Pasach Rabbi Shimon va'amar, Rabbi Shimon opens up and he says, Eis la'asos laHashem. It's a time to do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amai es la'asos. Why is it specifically a time to do? La Hashem, for Hashem. Mishum deheferu sarasecha. Because the Torah above is being unfoiled. The Torah above is being undone, so to speak. It's being unwoven. It's disappearing. And because there's this disappearance of the Torah above, and we're going to see it doesn't mean, God forbid, that the Torah of above is disappearing. It just means it's not appearing down here in our vessels. The Torah above is never disappearing. The Oros are never disappearing. The Oros are always there. The only shift is going to be the nature of the vessels that have the capacity to receive that light of Torah. So when we say the supernal Torah, the Oros of above are being nullified, it doesn't mean, God forbid, that they stop being ever present and ready at hand and all saturating in all places at every moment. It just means that the vessels, that the kalim, the way of looking, is not present enough so we can't experience them, as the Ramchal is going to say. But there's this threat of the Torah of above being mavutal, losing its ability to be revealed below, and therefore it's Eis Lasos La Hashem. So we're going to see that the Ramchal is going to describe two pathways of understanding Torah Lishma. And in understanding Torah Lishma, we're also going to understand the danger of Torah Shaloi Lishma. Now, everything hinges upon the conversation of Torah Lishma and Torah Lo Lishma. This is the crux of the point that separates and unifies the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh and the Gra. It's something that goes all the way back up to the Rambam and the Rush, which is a machlokas of Chachma and Bina b'Sharasho, the trained Mashiachin, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, that there's always going to be a dual way of looking at the sugya of Limud Torah Lishma. And what we're going to see here is a shemetz, a particular point of the Ramchal's understanding of Torah Lishma, which is Torah for the sake of spiritual activism, Limud Torah, which becomes an asiya that is for the sake of action, as long as it's not done for the sake of gaiva and focused on the sake of action, that's going to be Torah Lishma. And that's when the Torah itself is going to become the vehicle through which the lights that we desire from the Torah are going to be revealed through the act of learning Torah itself and the secret of Torah Lishma. And it's also going to warn us against what Torah Shaloi Lishma is, meaning Torah with Kaiva or Torah that is not for the sake of action, Torah that is meant simply to be intellectual stimulation, Torah that seems to create just a finesse of the mind. Now, the mindful awareness of the wisdom of Torah and the Sha'ashun Da'oraisa and the Pilpule Da'oraisa, it doesn't mean that that's not the Tachlis, but a person has to see the Tachlis within that, which is Dveikus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Sha'ashun Da'oraisa, the Chadvasa, the Shmaisa, that doesn't mean that I have to learn Torah Aliba de Hilchasa necessarily, and that the Lumdus isn't the Iker, and that it has to be Lamaisa. Aliba de Hilchasa Zavada the Maisa. A person has to understand the Maisim, but Lumdus and experience of Torah is also a Maisa, as long as it's done with the tachlis. And if the tachlis is dveikus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the limud HaTorah itself becomes the maisa. So it's not coming to negate the value of limud HaTorah or the contemplation of Torah that doesn't result in an actualized action in this world. It's also coming to speak of a way of learning that does not see the purpose of itself within itself. That when I encounter learning of Torah, that is the maisa itself. That I'm encountering the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's malubish somehow, some way in the Torah Hagashmi that I have access to, that is the greatest Maisa of all. And so when the Ramchal is going to say that the Iker of Torah Lishma is a Torah L'Shem HaMaisa, which is Eis La'asos La'Hashem, to be medayik on the word La'asos, that the fundamental need is to draw down a Torah of actuality, it means allowing even those things that appear to be operating in the place of machshava to be actual also. Machshava is maisa in the world of Atzilus. And each and every one of us also has the ability to tap into that place where the machshava is a maisa. We're far from it, the tzaddikim tell us. But nevertheless, we're close to it. It's not far from us to understand that the machshava is a maisa. It's a meleches machshavas. But it has to be with a tachlis. What makes something a maisa? It has a tachlis. If the tachlis of limud haTorah in the mind and the contemplation in the mind is for the sake of dveikus to the Shechina and to the dveikus of the Orient Sof that rests within the osios, then the limud haTorah itself is a maisa. And it doesn't mean it has to be a Torah that now goes into the street, but the Torah itself can experience the maisa itself. There's also the value of taking the Torah into the street and doing maisim themselves, as we're going to see. So Pasach Rabbi Shimon V'Amar. Rabbi Shimon says, Eis la'asos la'Hashem, it's a time to do for the Torah. Amay eis la'asos la'Hashem, mifum deheferus arasacha. So we're going to see, we're going to go slowly in these texts because the Ramchal is being very, very delicate. Pasach V'Amar. Eis la'asos la'Hashem, heferus arasacha. It's a time to act for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's an undoing of the Torah, meaning there's an undoing of the typical restriction that rests upon the Gilui of Pnimius HaTorah in order so that we can reveal what needs to be done. V'teda, says the Ramchal. Ki al kol halomed shelo lishma ne'emar, asher ya'asa pesel u'masecha. So everything that Rabbi Shimon just said earlier about this Orur Ha'ish Asher Yasa Pesel U'Masecha, that's talking about someone who's learning Torah lo lishma, learning Torah with the opposite of the proper intentionality. V'hainu o halomed l'shem gaiva chas v'shalom o kiyotze bezeh. The basic pshat in Torah shaloi lishma is Torah for the sake of gaiva, Torah for the sake of self-aggrandizement, Torah for the sake of making oneself feel that they are the master of the Torah, that it creates more of a separation of the individual from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The selfhood and the egoism of the self and the assumption that the self is a self-contained thing that's self-assured and separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the shirish of Avodas Halilim. It's the shirish of Gaiva. Gaiva is a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't rest. When my ani is burning because it feels so happy and proud of what this ani is able to reveal in the world, even koichi is the koyach of the Torah. The yud is the yud chachma keduma, the koyach oisios of the Torah. Even a person could think even my Torah comes from me. And in that place, it's shaloi lishma, it's a Torah that adds to Gaiva. Or kiyotze bazeh, any other ulterior motives. That's the way that Chazal typically understand Torah Shaloi Lishma. V'zeh sod HaKasuv, but we're going to go into a deeper understanding of Torah Shaloi Lishma. Says the Ramchal, based on the pasuk in Mishlei in Parak Lamed, pasuk Chav Ches, Shema mis biadayim tetafes, that the spider, which Rashi already points out over there, is arena belaz. So the Latin word for a spider, this form of a spider, it grasps with its hands. It grasps with its hands. The spider grasps with its hands, and it makes its way into the chambers of the king. So the Ramchal is going to see in this destructive pasuk the nature of the destructive shemamis, the spider, and the utilization in the spider's hands in trying to trap holiness. We're going to see how far the notion of Torah Shalol Lishma goes. And with this, we'll have to come back, Amir Tashem, soon with this understanding of the spider's hands and the spider and the fly. V'hu ki keshahachidush echad shel Torah yoytze mipi ha'adam, hine hu besoid hevel deloi etfas. V'nukva mekabeles also, u'bekoyach hayadayim shala oisa oso asiya mamish, v'az hu oile leman. So what the Ramchal is bringing us into here in order to understand what Limud HaTorah Lishma is, which is the tikkun of all things, which is the one thing that each and every one of us are capable of engaging in, and all of life is Limud Torah, and all of life can be transformed into a place of Limud Torah Lishma, a Torah of being in the street, a Torah of being in one's job, a Torah of being with one's family. Each and every one of those are Torahs, and each and every one of those have the halachos of Torah Lishma and Torah Shaloi Lishma. So this is not just speaking about Limud HaTorah, where the Ramchal and his Chavarya Kadisha were sitting wrapped in talis and tefillin, learning the Chaf Daled Svarim, the Araisa, and learning all of the Masechtas of Shas and the Mishnayos for the shame of the Tikkun of the Shechina. For us, it also means going into the street where we find ourselves during the day and encountering a traffic jam, and how am I going to learn up the sugya? It has to be, because that's what it means for me. And if anyone's listening to these words, so it's from me that they're coming. I'm trying to convey the words. So what it means, Torah Lishma, doesn't just mean to learn a Daf Gemara Lishma. It also means, like Rabbi Nachman says, to encounter the Torah of Olam Asiyah, which is being in the marketplace and encountering all of the collisions and all of the damages and all of the sugyos. And in there's also a way of being Lishma or Shalo Lishma. So this Torah Lishma and the tikkunim that are inherent within it are not only applied to the limud of Torah, which is expressed in the Beis Medrash, but it also, by dint of the fact that if the words of the tzaddikim are true, it has to be expressed on each and every level, so that that Torah Lishma, the quality of Torah Lishma, also applies itself in every area in our lives. So what we're going to learn now has an impact on wherever we find ourselves, by way of borrowing from the words of the tzaddikim and translating them into our own individualized understanding, with the fundamental knowledge between the difference between the words that the tzaddikim are saying, which is limud Torah Lishma, and the attempt to translate for the reader themselves, which is that Torah Lishma also in the Bechina form also means every encounter that a person has in their lives, which is the birurim of Divrei Torah, as the tzaddikim of Ishbitz and Redzin say. And if every ounce of life is a birur of Divrei Torah, that means that every ounce of life has the halachos of Shaloi Lishma and Lishma in them as well. And as long as I can align myself with Lishma, then I'm also going to be bringing about the same process. So what happens in the process of Torah Lishma? So what we're trying to do in life is we're trying to be mevarer, we're trying to clarify the shviras hakelim, we're trying to be mevarer all of the sparks that have fallen down as a result of the cataclysmic and original trauma of the shvirat hakelim, of the uncompatibility between the lights and the vessels at the initial immature stages of Tohu, referred to as the Olam of Nekudos, which plays a fundamental role in the beginning, middle, and tachlis of Kabbalah and the Torah writ large. That all of life is the original fixing, the shattering, and then the process of rectifying and clarifying that shattering to bring it back up above so that it can awaken an even deeper form of unity that comes about after the fixing of that which was broken, which is going to be the Olam HaTikun. So in the Olam HaShvira, there's a shattering and everything falls down. And everything is now stuck in an admixture of selfhood and no selfhood, of clarity and lack of clarity, the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra. And our job is to elevate the birurim from that place, to clarify slowly but surely through action, intention, thought, speech, connection, the fallen pieces, and to bring them all the way back up so that they can now go all the way back up again to the place that they came from. But now, as we've said so often, when they go back to the place that they came from, they don't just go back to the beginning, but they go back into the beginning, back to a place beyond the beginning that was not revealed prior to the beginning. And now they create a newfound strength and draw it back down, and that's what creates the new revelation. So this process of us encountering reality down here and trying to bring reality from down here all the way back up so that we can draw down more insight, more spiritual and divine insight into our own limited lives down here, this is referred to as Ha'alas Man and Hiradas Mad. These two principles, which the Arizal himself says, are really what rests at the central core of any sugya in Kabbalah, Aliyas Man v'Hiradas Mad. Man is Mayim Nukvin, and Mad is Mayim Duchrin. Nekeva represents an orientation of awakening from below to above by way of desire, privation, and a yearning for a fulfillment which is not yet present. It represents the awakening from below, the yearning that comes from a point of deficiency below. And mad is Mayim Duchrin, which is the water that comes from above down below by way of hashpa'ah, which comes to create more unity. Everything is about these two principles, the awakening from below, the man, which is our encounter with this worldliness, bringing it back up for the sake of drawing down the mad, drawing down the Mayim Duchrin. And this is the typical way that we understand reality. There's an Isarusa dilatata that I deal with my concealment down here, and I bring it all the way back up to create an Isarusa dilaela, which draws light down from above. The way that we typically look at this, though, is that there are two separate stages, that there's the process of awakening from below, the Mayim Nukfin, the desire that comes about by way of my encounter with the broken nature of reality, with the things that still need birurim, with the things that still need fixing, with the questions that are unanswered. And when I engage with that, then suddenly, maybe magically, something comes down from above, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewards my awakening from below with an awakening from above. that sees Mayim Nukvin and Mayim Duchrim, Isarusa de la Tata and Isarusa de la Ela, awakening from below and awakening from above, as two separate things. Pnimius HaKabbalah teaches us that the truth of the matter is that they're not two separate things. That in truth, the awakening from below is in fact the reawakening that comes down from above. But what happens is that a human being encounters birurim in this world, encounters shattered vessels, where there are vestiges of a light of Atzilus there, where a person contemplates any moment that they find themselves in, any sugya they find themselves in, and they say, I smell a residual light of an infinite thing here, and by way of that smell of the roishem, of the shviras hakelim, it gets awoken and it goes back up. That very desire brings the shviras hakelim back up through Malchus, and back to Zun, and back to Yisrael Saba and Tvuna, and back to Abba V'Ima Yilain, and back into Aruch and Atik, and all the way back up into the Pnimius of Adam Kadmon, which is the Yichud of the Ab and the Sag, the Pnimius, and then we're Mamshich down in Or Ein Soif Mamish, back down, and then there's a reunification of all of those parts, and they create the Hamshacha of the Or down here. Now, that ore that just came back down is not something separate and apart than the ore that was just awoken, that came from below to above. That very awakening of the deficiency, of the ha'alas man, of the recognition of the shvira, it goes up and it rectifies itself, and it goes even deeper into the vistas of the infinite, so to speak, and it draws down new influx and new hischadshus that comes from the koyach of the Or Ein Sof Mamish Kavyachol, which then comes back down as something new. But that new thing is not something separate and apart from the old thing, but rather it's the old thing itself that went up and refined itself and clarified itself so that it could reveal more, and then it came down as a new thing, meaning to say that the brokenness is the very thing that goes up and it comes back down. This has profound intonations and ramifications on how we look at trauma and how we look at concepts of self, but that's not for now. These are things we've discussed in many, many shirim. But for our purposes, the Ramchal is teaching us what's happening when a person is saying a Chiddush Torah. What happens is that we represent Zer Anpin, we represent the neshama, we represent trying to draw down the lights of spirituality into a world of malchus, which is a world that appears to be devoid of spirituality. And when we're able to do that, there's a yichud of Zer Anpin and Nukva. When we can make a yichud between ourselves, our sense of Torah, with the world itself, we create a unity, and then it goes all the way back up to draw down a new influx of insight that comes back down into this worldliness and enables me to reactivate myself with newfound spiritual power. This is the process of Chidushei Torah. At first, the person speaks, and when Torah leaves a person's mouth, the individual themselves is the secret of Zer Anpin. Kimitzion Teitzei Torah, the person is the Yesod, the person is the tzaddik, they're the mouth through which the Torah is coming out of. But prior to the Torah actually being done lishma, it's still considered a hevel deloi itfas. It's a voice that is not yet grasped. In each and every one of our experiences, when we first encounter a reality, when we first try and deal with something, when we first try and draw Hashem into our lives and whatever experience I'm having in my life, the first instantiation of that awakening is still a hevel deloi itfas. It's an awakening, it's an air, but it's an air that is not yet graspable. There's an intimation of a spiritual sense, but it's not yet fully actualized. And then Malchus, the Nukva, is mekabel, that awakening, that hevel deloi itfas, that awakens from the heart itself. And Malchus receives it with the Chesed and the Gevura. The hands of Malchus receive it, and Malchus forms that initial instantiation of a Hevel Deloi Itvas, an unformed voice, and it transforms it into a Dibor, which is an actual Maisa. And then, once that unactualized breath becomes an actual Dibor of Torah, so that now is an encounter with this worldliness, where a person's experience has now become Divrei Torah, and that's what creates an awakening. And those words of Torah create an awakening from below to above, because all words of Torah are awoken out of a kushya and a teirutz, which is the emergence from within concealment. It goes above when that hevel of the kol is unified with the dibor of malchus. It goes up as man, as mayin nukvin, and it awakens a hamshacha. It awakens a response. Every man, every mayim nukvin, every offering that we throw up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every word of Torah that we try and convey to ourselves, to others, to the world, every clarification we try and make is going to be thrown all the way up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the desire to send down more infinite light, send down more insight so that we have more graspability of you in this world. Va'az yored keneged zeh min hadas dezah or echad. And then what happens? This word of Torah, which started off as the awakening of the self on the level of Midos, which is their Anpin, which is not yet formed, and then it encounters the real worldliness of speech, and it's unified with Malchus, and then it goes all the way up to Man. It goes as Man, Amayim Nukvin, up above to awaken a new influx of spiritual light. As Yored Kenegdo Zem Min Hadas Deza or Echad. So what happens is that light goes all the way up. And then it starts coming back down again. So in the language of Kabbalah, when we awaken, when we bring the man, when we bring the birurim up into Malchus to Atzilus, it's goyrim, a yichud, a chazara, back into Bimachaber with Zer Anpin and Malchus, and that brings it a shlav above to Yisrael Saba and Tvuna, and then it goes up again to Abba V'Ima Ilan, and then it goes back up again to Arich, and then it goes back up to Atik, and then it goes into the Malchus of Adam Kadmon, and then it goes into the inner interiority of Adam Kadmon Kavyachal, and then it awakens the innermost principles of divine spirituality that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has planted in the very recesses of all of existence, the infinite light Kavyachal, and at that point it awakens an even further expression, which is the only place of novelty, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvaydoi va'atzma, which is never grasped by us, but then that new insight comes back down, and then that new spark of insight that came above from the awakening below is going to now create new unification. So first and foremost, it's going to create a yichud with Arich V'nuk and Arich and Atik V'nuk and Arich and Nuk and Abba V'imi Elon and Yisrael Saba and Tvuna and Zer Anpin and Malchus, and then it's going to express itself within Zer Anpin as a new insight, as a new das, as a new way of drawing down the highest light imaginable, that hidden light of Reishad Lo Asyada, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite light revealed down here. We draw it all the way down into the das of Zer Anpin, because the tachlis is to draw the moichin back down into ourselves. The tachlis is not to allow that spiritual awareness to remain above in the lofty worlds. The tachlis is to draw it back down into human consciousness. So we awaken from below by way of speech. We awaken the divrei Torah, the clarifications that we make, and it goes up as an awakening from below to above, and it awakens this chain reaction, so to speak, of hashgacha pratis, to the point that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends that new light down, which comes down in the form of the das deza and or echad. It rests in the centermost pillar. Das is the unification of Chacham and Bina. V'yoytze b'soid hevel hapeh. And then it expresses itself from the das of Zer Anpin, which is rooted in the das, the leitvas of Atik. It expresses itself in the Malchus. It expresses itself as language. V'achar kach b'yasoid. And then it goes down into the yasoid itself, which is the preparation for the words of Torah to be fully revealed. And in that place, it's nasa b'koyach hayadayim. In that place, there's a yichud between the yasoid and Malchus, and it's going to be mitchaber zemzeh, and there's going to be a new giloy of a light that came from above. Ki hayoytze min hadas hu hashleimus shel ha'olam elamata. Zak the Heiliger Ramchal, he's giving us something that's so delicate. He's saying, we're referring to this new hamshacha that comes from above, down below, from the highest, loftiest recesses of Or Ein Sof Kavyachal, after all of the aliyas man and the hamshacha of all of the moichin. Everything that we're trying to do can be drawn down into the innermost point that we refer to as das deza. Das, binyan beis hamikdash. Das is not the highest, but das is that singular place where the highest levels are all coming down to be contained within a singular nekuda of das. Of da es Hashem Elokecha, to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Laman das kol emei ha'aretz ki Hashem hu Elokim, v'yakel Moshe kol adas b'nei Yisrael, the das of Moshe Rabbeinu. Das, says the Ramchal, ki hayoytze min hadas, hu hashleimus shel ha'olam elamata. The fullest expression, the quintessential expression of all of the things that we're trying to draw down, once we elevate everything back up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we're mamshech back down, it has to come by way of das. So that's what the Ramchal is saying, that first and foremost, a person prepares to have a Dibor Torah. And it's a Hevel Dole Itfas. There's an awakening within the self, and it wants to say a Devar Torah, it wants to find the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu someplace. But it's not yet revealed by way of Lishma, it's not yet actualized, it's not yet worthwhile, it's not yet doing anything. But then it goes into Malchus, and it takes shape a little bit more. And then once it takes shape, then it goes all the way above. Then there's an offering that goes from below to above, and it goes up by way of Mesiras Nefesh, that a person throws their words of Torah above. They throw their words of Torah into a tefillah, and every ounce of consciousness is this process of Torah and Tefillah. And then, as a result of that awakening, where it goes all the way up, then that light comes back down, and it comes down to the place after all of the Seder of the Hamshachas HaMoichin. It expresses itself in the Das de Zer Anpin, which is the externalization of the Keser of Zer Anpin, which is really the Shlish Elyon of the Malchus, the Tvuna. And then we experience a new hamshacha, and it expresses itself now within the hevel hapeh of Zer Anpin, and then it goes down into the place of Yesoid, Kichol Bashamayim B'Va'aretz, and in that place everything is ready to be transferred over to Malchus, and that's going to be the Chibur. So we're drawing down from Das into Yesoid and Malchus, and that's going to be a tikkun of Torah Lishma. V'az oile hadavar hahu, v'nekasher v'nechakek kame atik yoimin b'chochmas tima'a kamei shekasav l'cha l'kamen b'siyata d'shmaya. So here, I'm going to read the next line from the Ramchal, and it's only going to be b'derech efshar. It's only going to be b'derech efshar because I don't know if this is what the Ramchal is saying. I do believe that this is what the Ramchal is intimating towards, but I wasn't able to clarify beforehand, and we're going to read the words at least, and then we're going to see how we can have a better understanding. V'az nikra hadavar hahu Torah. Dahainu tafreish vavhei, ki avavhei mekabelas b'seid nukva v'zah, k'niz kala'el, u'miskala b'seid ha-shoyresh, dahainu tafreish aleph, ki kol davar mimenu mispashet kach. So now the Ramchal is giving us a little bit more insight into the tachlis of this whole process. Until now we see that the awakening from below goes all the way above to draw something back down into my own experience, into conscious awareness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world, and then it gets drawn down into actuality. But the Ramchal is adding something here, that once we awaken this process of Divrei Torah, once we actualize Divrei Torah, and it's a Dvar Torah Lishma, it's no longer L'Shem Gaiva, but it's for the sake of drawing a Kadosh Baruch Hu into the world. So what we do is once we draw something down to Malchus, as oile hadavar hahu, v'nekasher v'nechake kaime atik yoimin b'chochmas tima'a, k'may shekasav l'cha l'kamen b'siyata d'shmaya. The shirish of the Torah is something called chochmas tima'a. Chochmas tima'a is the chachma within Keser. Chochmas tima'a is the gevura of atik yoimin, which is mislabish within the chachma of arich anpin, which is something referred to as butzina de kardenusa, what we've spoken about. It's the first instantiation of din, of limitation. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is limitation. The Torah is the shape and the map in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created the world. The Torah is tzimtzum. It's the kliumnus shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he used to create the world. The stakal b'araisa ubara alma. The osios of the Torah are tzimtzumim. Every os of the Torah is another tzimtzum that reveals the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the Torah b'shorasho is of such a lofty nature to the degree that it's a roishim of elokus, it's a trace of godliness, so to speak, as the Kadmonim say. Memela, so we have to come to understand how could it be, where is the shirish of the Torah? And we're not talking about the Torah Kaduma of the Sha'ashuim right now. We're talking about the Torah in Chachmas Tima. So the nature of Chachmas Tima is that it's the origination of Torah. It's the shape of the definition and the measurements through which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be Megala himself through this entity called the Torah itself. And every ounce of real Torah, of Torah Lishma, is going to be the biggest tikkun imaginable. So when a person is engaged in Divrei Torah and trying to create some expression of godliness through their own experience of Zer Anpin and to draw it down into their Malchus and then to awaken their Malchus with its unity to their Zer Anpin and to elevate it all the way back up into the recesses of the Or Ein Sof Kav Yachol, to draw it back down, to be mezavig all of the zivugim till it comes down to the Nakuda of Das, and then from Das it goes down all of the Midos till it comes to the Yisoid, and at that point it's Metzchaber with Malchus and there's a Gilui of Elokus, new words of Torah coming out. What happens then is that word of Torah, that birur, that tikkun gets inscribed and engraved within the space of Atik Yoimin Eitzel Chachmas Tima'a, meaning to say it becomes a part of the Torah, it becomes a part of the supernal Torah, it goes all the way up to the tikkunim of Atik Yoimin, it draws down the highest lights of Keser Ilah. So that our tachlis, and this is what we've said before, is that whenever we start at a certain level and we go down, it appears that there's a degradation. But ultimately, the degradation is revealed to be the sake of an eventual ascent. But that ascent is never just back up to that original point of departure, but it goes into an even deeper place prior to the point of departure, which reveals the entire purposefulness of that descent. And the same is going to be true with Chidushay Torah. We start off in Chachma. In the realm of Chachma, there's no possibility of Chidushay Torah. There's the Torah itself. There's Bittul Muchletas. So in order for a person to be Mavayer Birurim in this world, we have to leave Chachma. Leaving Chachma is the secret of Shira Sakelim, where the light shatters and the vessels are unable to receive it and everything shatters and it falls down. A birur of Rapach Nitzoitzim is an encounter with Meiser Anpin and my Malchus to try and awaken some semblance of spiritual purposefulness, words of Torah in this world, and it gets oriented and it gets awoken and it goes all the way back above. And then once it actually has its import and once it's actually a real birur, it goes into that place of Atik Yom and it goes into that place and it draws down the lights of Keser Ilah. It draws down the innermost point of the Tachlis of the Torah. The tachlis of limud Torah lishma is not just to go back into chachma, but it's to go back into the chachma stima. It's to go back into keser itself, to awaken a ratzon and a tainuk, which is lamala mitam v'das, but into the Torah itself. And so that the tikkun is not just to unify Zer Anpin and Malchus so that it can go back into Chachma as if it goes back to the original point that it started from. Adir Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik. It goes into the inner interiority of Chachma, which is Chachma Stima'o, which is the Lamed Beis Nesivos Chachma, which is the Havein B'Chachma, which is the secret of the Gvuros of Bina in their refinement within Chachma itself, which is the secret of the Torah, which is Eish Tas Lamo and Mipi HaGvura, but it's still Mechachma Stima'a, so it's that place of the emergence of possibility prior to actuality, and then it goes into that place of Pnimius Atik, which is the Reisha Delos Yada. So that the Chidushei Torah are actually drawing down the deepest tikkunim, and that's going to create the unification of all of the partsufim. And now listen to what the Ramchal says. Now let's look back at the words that we just saw. Now, once the Chiddush Torah is there and it's real, it goes all the way back up, not only to the source in Chachma, but back into the Pnimius of Chachma and the Pnimius of Atik. As we're going to see. Va'az nikra hadavar hahu Torah. And then that experience, that word of Torah, that tikkun, is actually inscribed within the original Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed through Moshe, which is the secret of Kol Masha Talmud Vasek Asid Lischadesh, was already given over to Moshe. And the secret of Moshe Shapir Ka'amart, when a person is drawing down Torah like Moshe from Sinai, that a person is drawing from Sinai, which is the Yesod, but also drawing from Moshe, which is the Das, that's being mechaber with the Yesod. So then we have that secret of Kedas Moshe Yisrael, that each and every person is giving words of Torah over Kenesinasim Misinai, and then it actually has an impact. And it's not just empty words, and the words that we hear have an impact, and the words that we say have an impact. V'az nikra hadavar hahu Torah. V'hainu taf reish vav hey. What is Torah? Torah is taf reish vav hey, meaning to say the vav hey is the secret of Zer Anpin and Malchus, where we're experiencing life. They receive the light of Torah. There's a yichud of the vav hey. That's us receiving the light of Torah from above. And that taf kuf is the secret of the shoresh, which is going to be chachma and bina. And then the Ramchal over here adds aleph. Ki kol davar mimenu mispashit kach. Again, just to bear with me, Chevra, we're understanding that the Ramchal is saying the tachlis is to be yored from Chachma into Bina, to be Mazavig, Zer Anpin, and Malchus, to awaken Malchus, to go all the way back up to the infinite light, and then we experience the Pnimius of Chachma, which is Pnimius of Atik. And that's the expression of Torah itself, that first there's going to be the yichud of the Vav and the Hey, the last two letters of Torah, because the awakening begins from below, which is the yichud of Zer Anpin, which is the Hevel de lo Itvas, that voice that is not yet actualized, and being mechaber with the oisius of Malchus itself. There's a chibur of the Vav Hey, and then it awakens the Shorish, which is the Taf Reish. Now, Taf Reish I understand, because we can say that's the Chachma and the Bina, that's the Chachma Stima'a. But why the Ramchal is adding the word over here, Taf Reish Elef, I don't know. Now, it could be that it's the 600,000 osios of the Torah, it could be that it's the 600,000 Shorashe Neshamos that were Nichlal in the Torah itself. Or it could be the fact that when we reach back up into the Taf and the Reish, which is the secret of Chachma and Bina, we said we're going back up to Keser, which is the Pele Elyon, which is the Aleph, which might not be expressed within the Torah itself. Ki kol davar mimenu mispashet kach, because this is the Seder and the sequence in which all things take shape. So this idea becomes more important. What are we talking about? When we make the unification of Zer Anpin and Malchus, when we create our Kol Deloi Itvas, and we allow it to awaken with our Dibor and to go up as Man, as an awakening from below to above, throwing everything up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, What are we drawing back down? But it's clear from the Ramchal, we're not only drawing back down Chachma and Bina, we're drawing down the Pnimius of Chachma, which is the Pnimius of Atik, which is the Pnimius of the Shorish of the Tainug in the Torah, which is the secret of the Aleph. Now, it could also be that this is a hint to the Aleph of Anoichi that rests at the heart of the Bays of Bereshis. I don't know what this Aleph means. So there's a number of options of how we can understand it, and we'll clarify it hopefully, and we'll get a clear answer. But for our purposes, what's happening is that when we're actually engaged in words of Torah, what we're doing is we're clarifying the birurim down here, and we're utilizing all of our desire to draw more hamshacha v'lekus down, and by way of that awakening and that desire and the chadvasa d'shmais and the yearning for that Torah to go all the way, all the way, all the way up to the face of a Kadosh Baruch Hu kavyachol, to go up into the Kodesh HaKadoshim mibein shnei akruvim. In that place, we access a hamshacha me'lamala. There's no greater thing than drawing down Hamshachas Ha'oros through Torah itself, and it comes all the way down. But it's not just Chachma and Bina that comes down. It's an added element of the Aleph, of the Pele Elyon, of the Chacham Hastima, of something being engraved in Atik Yomin, and the radical possibility of Chiddush onto something that can't have any Chiddush added onto, and it's the retroactive revelation that all that is being added is already part and parcel of. It's just being revealed, as the Leshem explains, when Moshe Rabbeinu encounters Rabbi Akiva. And he sees all of this particularity, all of these giluyim, and in the end of the day, he says, "But I don't have this, so this is not mine." Moshe Rabbeinu says, and he has a chalishas hadas until it comes that it's revealed that it's halacha l'Moshe misinai. It's all from Moshe, and this is the secret of each and every neshama having its own chiddush in Torah and revealing that it's truly engraved within the originality of the Torah. It's showing the l'chatchilakite of all of our b'diavad. Ach im hadavar hu chas v'shalom shaloi lishma. But if, God forbid, there's gaiva or kiyotze bazeh, and it's being done to separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as mekadmat lamed yud tes v'noit lota v'oisa oisa b'yadayim haroyim v'hem yadayim hashamamis. But if, heaven forbid, a person is stuck within themselves, a person is stuck in ulterior motives, so when I first awaken that hamshacha of Torah, when a person has that original hisayrus to awaken that hevel delay itvas, that would then be nimshach down to their malchus to awaken the mayim nukvin to go all the way up, if it has the wrong intentionality there, so then concealment takes it first. Lamed Yud test, Lilith, the externality of reality, the Chava Harishona, that externality of reality that doesn't have its hyper significance, and it gets taken by meaninglessness and emptiness. It gets taken by emptiness and it goes nowhere and it's wasteful. And when there's wastefulness and when there's wasted words of Torah and when there are words that are spoken and not heard, or words that are being chattered with a lack of sensitivity, with a self-centeredness, with an arrogance, with a desire to destroy, to take over, to take control of, so then those words are not only not going to go anywhere, but they're going to awaken negativity. They're going to serve as an awakening of more negativity, because negativity begets negativity. That's a simple psychological truth in reality. And so when a person is operating in a place of loy lishmakait, where everything is about the self and everything is about the person themselves, then God forbid it awakens it gets taken, those words of Torah get taken by the other side. Those words of Torah get taken by the other side, Rahman al-Itzlan. And then that person is then going to become more defiled, defilement upon defilement, because our words are serious and our words are going to create an awakening one way or the other. They're either going to awaken the highest, loftiest reservoirs of infinite light coming back down, or we're going to get stuck in concealment and we're going to feel more and more tumah. When a person gets in the way of their words of Torah and their speech is not an emptying out of self, and rather it's a self-aggrandizement and it's a revelation of self, God forbid, so then a person themselves become a pesel l'maseicha, and a person themselves becomes avodah zarah mamish. At that place, the Torah is going to congeal and it's going to thicken and it's going to begin to stink and it's going to smell terrible. As the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh said, when he went into a Beis Medrash, he walked into the door and he says, it's filled with Torah, and he walked right out and he said, it's clear that not one thing is done lishma, because if it's not done lishma, it stays down and it doesn't go anywhere and it's not poil anything. If the Torah is poil something, so that's a siman that it's a Torah lishma. If it's not poel something, if it takes a person away from a desire to be better, then it's clear that there's a snake in the house. And when there's concealment around, where does concealment want to go? It wants to go to the yesod. It wants to go to that desire to express the self, because there's a pleasure in self-expression no matter what. Because yesod, the shorish of self-expression is the expression of one's os in Torah. But if a person thinks they're giving over their os in Torah and instead they're just giving over themselves, themselves, they're going to have the same ta'anugim, Rahman al right? Sitra Achra wants to be achaz on the Yesod, Mipnei HaShoresh HaRishon Sheba. Why? Because that's the first awakening of it. The first desire to give over, the first ratzon hashpia is awoken from the sense that I want to share something, I want to give something over. And in that place, the klipa is going to say, oh, I come from that place and I want to go to that place. And that's why the klipa of the pesel and the masecha that comes about with Torah Shalai Lishma is going to be al yedei charush v'sham b'seiser. Why is the pegam going to take place in a concealed place? B'sisru sa'olam. What's the hidden thing? It's the tzaddik yesod olam. It's the place of yesod. It's the concealed place. B'hainu yesod sheyoshev b'seiser b'sei chanuk. It's going to be a pegam on that hidden possibility of each and every person to be mashpia. Each and every person, taka, does have something to give over in the world. Each and every person can fill the world with basamim, with the words of Torah, with their insight, with their sharing with the world, with their encounter with others. Like we said before, Torah Lishma is in every in a person's life. But if a person gets too much in the way, then the klipa is going to be added, and it's a hastara on top of hastara and a tumah on top of a tumah. And the entire thing that Rabbi Shimon wanted to do was Hine Hichin Kach Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai prepared the Chavraya Lihios Mistadrim Haim Lefi HaSeder HaElyon, to align themselves in accordance to the alignment, to do their role and not to go above, not to go below. One of the fundamental places in which Gaiva is going to burn most intensely is when a person tries to, God forbid, go beyond their place or go below their place. Each and every person has their place. And if a person goes below their place, then they're in someone else's place. And if a person goes above their place, then they're in someone else's place. A person has to make shalom with the makom and have the confidence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the makom shel olam. And when I align with that, then my makom is going to the place where it needs to go, and I don't have to be makana another person's makom. But if a person, God forbid, is trying to establish placement or situatedness and manipulate, etc., so then it's going to be a pagam, and then it's going to be mavata the seder. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai knew the secret that there has to be a seder. There has to be a seder in terms of how hashpa is going to take shape in the world. But chila b'sur meira, first the person has to get rid of the negativity and prepare themselves to be a kli roi, to be mashpia themselves in the Welt. And again, every single person is mashpia in every single moment in Metzias. We're mashpia on the Shechina, we're mashpia on Metzias, we're mashpia on our children, our loved ones, our neighbors, our strangers, our materiality, our ideas, our hearts, our bodies. Each and every person is mashpia. Each and every person has to learn the halachos of Torah Lishma. Lahasoi shaimrim l'kedusha, to prepare ourselves to guard kedusha, and then to engage in the asay tov. Question is now, the next shlav of the Ramchal is another incredible understanding of Torah Lishma. Not only for the sake of the unity of Zer Anpin and Malchus, to awaken the Shefa above from Keser Elyon, from the Shirish, the Shakya, the Ilana, the light of all lights that comes back down. This is going to be the secret of the Maisa itself being the Iker. But because the original idea took longer than I thought it would, so I think that what we'll do is either later on today we'll add a second shir on this Nakuda, or we'll wait till next week. You know what, Taka, we're going to do it now. Be'ezras Hashem. Soid amanas la'asos, tikkun hashchina. The second understanding of Eis lasos la'Hashem hifru sarasecha. Eis lasos la'Hashem hifru sarasecha. What does it mean to learn Torah Lishma? Da ki ha'etzbaos he mamish soid eser osios shel Hashem baruch hu yud hey mitzad echad and vav hey mitzad sheni. So now we're going into why it's the hands. If the spider kills with its hands, and Lilith takes with her hands, and destruction takes shape when things are not formed properly, and it's the wrong forming that distorts information. It's not the information that's the problem, it's the formation that one forms that information with, as we saw from the Ramchal already. The problem is never the Torah. The problem is the way that a person teaches the Torah. So the Ramchal is saying here, know that the fingers of one's hands, we already saw the etzba lekimhu and how etzba is aleph ke vav ke. Here the Ramchal is giving another secret about looking at the hands, that there's 5 fingers on one hand and 5 fingers on the other hand. When we look at the Shem Havaya spelled out with its milui of Yudin, we're not going to spell out the name itself because the Ari says not to do that. But when we look at the way that it's spelled out, so there's 10 letters. On the right hand, we're going to have 5 of the letters, the full spelling of the Yud and the Hey. And then on the other hand, the five fingers are going to be the full spelling of the Vav and the Hey. So this is how when a person is looking at their hands, the fingers themselves represent the Shem Havaya. Hainu Hey Leneged Hey. Five letters on one hand and five letters on the other hand. The Zen Nikra Asiyas Hashem Besoid Ha'etzba'os Ha'elu. This is what's referred to as the formation of the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu by way of the etzbaos, by way of the fingers themselves. And now the Ramchal is going to tell us something. Va'oidicha bazeh soid gadol ma'od. And I am going to reveal to you now a very deep secret. Iker haTalmud hu ha'maisa. The main purpose of study is action, actualization, externalization, process. V'ha'inyan da. And we have to understand the matter. Ki hine amru razal. Im betalta min haTorah yesh lecha betelim harbe kenegdcha. If you nullify the Torah, if you're mevatel the Torah, so then there's going to be a chain reaction of a number of things that are nullified in front of you. And so the Ramchal wants to understand, what is bittul Torah? What does it mean to be mevatel the Torah? V'husod masha amru gamkein, and it's also the secret of what Chazal have told us. Shabbatla mevia de lidei sha'amun. That nullity and nullification and lack of engagement, lack of action brings laziness, it brings destruction, it brings boredom and destruction. So Ramchal is saying over here, what's Eis Lasos Lashem Torah Lishma? It has everything to do with the Maisi Yadenu Konaneu. It has everything to do with the Yadayim of Moshe, Shahoyrid Biyado, that he brought the Torah down into his hands. This is a second understanding of Torah Lishma. First understanding is to awaken the loftiest level of the Chachma Stima and Pnimius of Atik, to draw it back down, to draw that Aleph back down. And now we're seeing that the Iker of Torah Lishma is the Maisa itself, which we'll see is Malchus is not so different because Malchus is Gunuz Baradla. B'chol zehu, what's the secret? Ki ein Iker tikun ha'oiris ela behispashtustam l'poyel. The purpose of the creation of the world, the purpose of everything is that the lights should be revealed down here below. Higalena, the lights are meant to be revealed in Pu'ula Mamish, in this world, in the Dir Betachtoinim. Hashem wants to be revealed down here. Ubazeh toli ha-mitzvos ha-averos. And this is the secret of the mitzvos and the averos, the guf of the Torah itself. Down here in a physical body, with a neshama within the physical body, where we get to engage and choose positive actions. Ki ein shum ha'ara mevuteles chas v'shalom. Ela ha'oros b'koach ha'pegamim nisharim b'telim. Now, the Ramchal says, like we've taught already, there's no bittul of the oros of the Torah above. There's just the batala of the lights of the Torah above. The Torah above is never not moving and expressing itself. It's being mitorer tamid. It's hischachos tmidi. It's the sha'ashuin the oraisa that Hakadosh Baruch Hu kaviyachol is mishta'asheya b'taraso in the secret of the chacham stima and the levyasan. Those oros are always awoken. Those oros are always churning, always burning, always being revealed, always being mispashet, to the degree that every moment a person can listen and be makabel the kolos of Har Sinai, as Rabbeinu says. But the bittul and the batala of those oros, the apparent non-expression of those oros, where they appear to be going to waste or they appear to be revealed for a wasteful purpose, that is an issue that is dependent upon the pegamim of the individual who's engaged in this world. That there's no bittul to the lights above, God forbid. The only problem is that in accordance with the blemishes, so too the lights are not going to have a place to be revealed, and they're going to be considered as if they are no longer present. Dahainu beloy melacha v'maisa. It means that there's batala there. The lights are not being revealed, they're not activated, but it doesn't mean they're mevutal in the sense that they don't exist. The lights are always there. The infinite light is always there. The Chidushay Torah are always there. Pasach picha ve'ya'iru dvarecha. They said in the days of Rabbi Shimon that open up your mouth and let your words speak the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chidushay Torah l'cha amar libi bekshu panai. There's no ha'eder mitzias of the Torah. It just means that there's a batala of the revelation of the Torah, and that's the ikar of the Torah. Torah Lishma is the revelation of the Torah. Ki hatikun, what is rectification? Beheyos ha'oros mistavkim v'nimshachim u'magiyim lamata. Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu lios lo dir betachtoinim, choy katov lehetiv, lamata me'asar tvachim. The tachlis of the Torah is when it reveals its light all the way down here in the Torah Gashmi. Ube'emes kol zeh hu soid ha'maisa. This is the secret of the maisa. Eis lasos la'Hashem hifru sarasecha. The maisa is the ikr. Ki tzarach sheyagiu el ha'misharsim ve'el ha'asiyah. It's not enough for the Torah to remain above in the world of Atzilus. It has to be drawn down into the worlds of Bri, Yitzir, and Asiyah. It has to be drawn down to the malachim. and down to us. It has to be inputted into the coding of reality through the malachim so that it can come down and shafa down here. And this is the secret of Yismach Hashem b'ma'asav. The true joy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when it's done b'maisa, down here. Sha'az HaKedusha hi ashelates. Because when the light of the Torah is revealed down here in this low place, so then Kedusha overtakes concealment, and then we come further to revealing the fundamental unity, which is that Mibaladai Ein Shem Elokim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. V'asitra achar miskareshes u'misrachekas. And there's nothing that disinfects the world from concealment and sitra achar, which is concealment itself, other than the light of Torah, other than the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the purpose of all things, to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu down here, to be megala how the emtsa is mechuber to the beginning and the end, and that comes about by way of Chidushay Torah. As we've explained to you numerous times. But if, God forbid, human beings are pogame and we stop being proper and we stop negating our egos and we stop behaving properly and we stop trying to do our best to align ourselves to the Torah and mitzvos as we understand them in accordance with the truthfulness of each and every person's spiritual grasp in this world, so then we cause those lights to no longer have a way of coming back down, and then it appears that they're mavuttal because they have no longer a purpose, because they can't come down and fulfill their purpose, and they just exist above in some ethereal space. And that's referred to as batala. Bittul Torah is not just not learning Torah. Bittul Torah is learning that's not for the sake of Maisa, but like we said above, the learning itself can be the Maisa also. It's batala because they're actually missing their full and fundamental purpose, which is to be revealed by way of Maisa. Hatali batikan hayadayim. And Maisa is Maisa yadenu konanehu. Harid biyado, shnei luchos harid biyado, to draw the Torah into the hands, to see the Shem Havaya in the hands themselves, in this worldly experience, the hands that extend beyond the self into the realms of concealment, and then up above again, and in the secret of Arimas Yada B'tzlusa. And this is the secret of doing mitzvos down here in the Vav and the Hey. That's why we're makdim the Vav and the Hey of the Torah in Zer Anpid and Nukva. That's our worldly experience with a body and a soul. What we're able to do down here is the biggest radical secret, is the secret of a mitzvos maisios. That's the secret of the Ner mitzvah. The Ner is the mitzvah. Ner is nefesh and ruach. That's the body and the soul. Down here, the Vav and the Hey is the ability to perform mitzvos maisios in the Dir B'tachtoinim. Achatoira hi ha'or ha'shoira al ha'ner b'chein ha'guf. Nimsa l'neshama machmas iburo b'zivug zun v'zeu ha'maisa shezacharti. The Torah itself is or. The Torah itself is above. The Torah rests on top of the candle. Ner mitzvah, the mitzvah is the ner, the candle, that's the body illuminated with its action in this world. Then the Torah has something to rest upon. The purpose of the guf is to enable the neshama to express itself. That's going to be the yichud of Zer Anpin V'nukva, to draw down the light of Torah into the Maisa itself. But, says Rabbeinu Ramchal, so when a person learns Torah, that's not for the sake of the Maisa, of drawing down more elokus into Metzias, of drawing down more goodness into the world, of connecting more and more with that is most true, which is the absolute infinitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as revealed through Moshe and the Nevi'im, and through Torah's Moshe Emes, L'Sarase Emes, and the Dir B'tachtoinim, in the attempt to daven better, and to learn better, and to do mitzvahs maisios, and to feel good, and to be good, and to be kind, and to develop emunah, and bitachon, and yira, and ahava, in all of the right ways. When we don't have that, when there's no maisa, lo nimsa ba'oris of the bechinas or Torah, then all that exists is the Torah, and that's not so impressive. V'hubatel below maisa, the Torah without maisa is muvuttel b'tachlis habitel. It's there, avada, but that's not a surprise. The Torah is always there. Ve'ina magia ela makablim. It's not coming down to the place that it needs to come down to. Va'asa sitra achar m'tchazekes l'shloit l'mata. And then when the sitra achar, God forbid, sees something that can be rested upon, where there's a desire of expression or a desire of reception, if it's not going to be utilized to express spirituality, the tainu Torah and Tanuge HaSeichel of spirituality, so then it's going to be grabbed up by something else. And that's why the bittul of the Yadayim, when I'm not engaged with creating a Maisa, so Memela, I'm going to find myself with the Yadayim Askanios, and I'm going to be engaged in negativity, because there's no in-between. It's either my hands are utilized with the deepest things in the entirety of reality, the Torah HaKadosh of drawing down the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into Metzias, and seeing the Shem Havai in my Osios and my Etzpaos, or my hands are going to be used to destroy. V'haklipos atzmam Destruction, meaninglessness, wastefulness, that is klipa. It's not that klipa causes this thing. When a person feels those things in their lives, boredom, uselessness, a life of uselessness is the biggest klipa in the world, which is why a life of usefulness is the biggest tikkun in the world. Of the maisa is the ikr. If I feel worthless, if I feel useless, then I'm going to feel useless and worthless. That's the secret of klipa, when it's not being utilized properly, when something is not being revealed in the way that it needs to be revealed in the Maisa itself. Kimitziyusam v'shlitasam min habatala shel ha'oros ha'elyon. And where does Sitra Achar come from? Sitra Achar, the other side of concealment, is what takes shape when there's spiritual influx that's coming down into the world that's not being properly received by the Kalim. This is the secret of Shviras HaKelim. This is the secret of Pagam Habris. It's a reenactment of the Shviras HaKelim. It's a hashpa of Oros that has no vessel to receive that light. And the lights are then going to be transformed from light into darkness. And that's why batal of my hands and not utilizing a maisa itself is a pagam in the Torah, because then it's going to lead to destruction, not because, oh, I'm going to become bad as a result. No, this is the next response. When there's lights that are there and they're not received properly, then they're taken by the other side of reality, which is more and more boredom and more chasing after satisfaction towards that boredom, etc., etc. That by not drawing down the lights into the vessels properly, we are allowing there to be a reenactment of the Shviras HaKelim, which is just adding more wastefulness, and it's another moment where the Torah is not having its impact, and a person grows more and more forlorn, and a person grows more and more hopeless as to the possibility of finding meaning in this world, which leads to more distraction, which leads to more forlornness, etc., etc. And therefore, when a person is learning Torah, when a person engaged in anything in this world, whenever a Jewish mind is utilizing its koyach hapnimi, it's a sugya of learning Torah. And when we're learning Torah, it has to be for the sake of la'asos. What is the la'asos? It's drawing down the light down here, revealing more and more light down here. V'teidash and understand this is the secret of Zara Levatala. This is the secret of wastefulness, of expressing light that has no vessel. Ki goyrim la'oros ha'elyonim shelo yagiu el b'chinas maisa. It's just the recreation of that. There's an awakening of light and a desire to express and a desire for sharing and a desire for revelation of light and the or hagonus l'tzadikim. But nevertheless, there's no maisa to receive it. V'azar atzma hayoytza. That light itself that comes out, which is the heilige light, it itself is transformed into something that can now be taken by the Sitra Achra. Because it has missed its integral point. It's misusing the purpose of that ore. It hasn't found where it needs to go to. And understand this very well. Because from these wasteful droplets that come about by wasteful behaviors, that come about by a wastefulness of the mind, it's just going to result in more and more wastefulness. All of these elements of the body which feel that they're useless, and the body that becomes useless, and the body that no longer trusts itself, and the holy body is then going to be transformed into a heavy body, and it's going to be a body that is taken by the hands of the spider, God forbid, where the body grows tired of itself, and the body feeds itself more and more of this worldliness, and it forgets more and more of the tachlis. And this is where the mind is confused by all sorts of dimyonos, and every encounter with consciousness, every encounter with Talmud Torah is the attempt to re-uncover the purposefulness of all things, to re-uncover the kli that can hold the light. And by creating kelim that can hold the light, we're mataking the shivrei kelim, we fix those nitzotzos, and they go all the way back up, and they become the most meaningful things of the world. And the biggest chidushei Torah come from those places, as Rav Tzadok HaKohen Meilublin says, that that the sadness itself is transformed into joy. As the Heilige Iglei Tal writes, that the tikkun to Begam Abris is learning Torah with ta'anug, is learning Torah with sha'ashun da'araisa, finding pleasure in the Torah itself. And this is the secret of Eis La'asa, Eis Lahashem, ki zeh ha'ikr. The ikr is the maisa. Shetzarech lahagia ha'oros l'bechinas ha'maisa. We have to draw the oros down. U'bechinas zois netaknim b'soid shem havaya behei. And this is all done when we draw the shem havaya onto our hands themselves. Now the Ramchal is going back to the original point that he made earlier about the Chachmas Tima and the Hiskalis of Kesser. So we'll finish up with this paragraph, and then we'll be ready to start Amir Hashem next week. V'teidah shahalimut shel Torah atzma ha'aseh l'shem tikun hashchina mischaber ha'orim haner. So, like we said before, don't think that this just means that the Torah itself is not enough. That the Torah, limud HaTorah lishma, limud HaTorah for the sake of the rectification of the Shekhinah, learning Torah for the sake of knowing that by me contemplating the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by me clarifying concealment of this world for the sake of revealing more and more light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not for my sake, it's not for schar, it's not for anything other than the Tikkun HaShekhinah. This is what the Shekhinah wants. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be moitzi ora me'afela, to go down into the concealment of wisdom and to clarify it through pilpulim and through limud haTorah, libud hilchasa, and through sha'ashu and da'iraisa and limud haTorah lishma, and to elevate it back up. It's for the tikkun of the Shekhinah. Nothing is done other than for the sake of the Shekhinah Kadisha, to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in here, to elevate all of my tsar back up to the tsar HaShekhinah, to be aware that all concealment in this world comes about as a result of the concealment of the Shekhinah. And when the Shekhinah is in a state of concealment, Metzias is in a state of concealment. And our hearts feel that concealment because our hearts are the place where the Shekhinah hides, and that the Shekhinah that rests within each and every one of us finds itself in states of Geula and also finds itself in states of Galus. And Limud HaTorah, the same Tikkun Shekhinah, is for the sake of elevating that concealed light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that rests hidden within my heart and bringing it back up to that world of Atzilus, as the Baal Tanya explains. And so Limud HaTorah Atzma Ha'osi L'Shem Tikkun HaShekhinah, for the sake of the rectification of the Shekhinah, and we all do this on Leil Shavuos with Tikkun Leil Shavuos, but that reflects simply what we know that we're doing intuitively anytime the letters of the Aleph Beis leave our mouths. That is for the sake of the tikkun of the Shekhinah. And when we do that, it's also a ma'aseh mechaber ha'orem haner. It's the way of drawing down the highest lights of Chachma and Bina, not only Chachma and Bina, but the Chachma Stima'o, which draws down the Atik itself, down into the lower levels of the Vav and the Hey, which is our Anpin and Malchus. That when a person learns Torah properly, he oile b'malus gedolos. A person ascends upwards, not only upwards back to Chachma, but malus gedolos, back to Chachma Stima'o, back into Pnimius Atik. V'oile is galfa chakuka kaime atikirmin, meaning to say it goes all the way back up to Keser and it engraves itself there, and it reveals the secret paradox of a chiddush, which is the secret of Rabbi Akiva, which is the oisios, the chakika, which is the revelation that everything new is ultimately rooted in the old, but it was not possible of being revealed from within the old until it came about in a new way to go back retroactively and revealed how all newness was contained within that which is old in the secret of Atik Yoimin. And the Inyan is ki chachma stima'ahu shayrish haTorah. The shirish of the Torah, like we said, the kav hamida, the betzina, the kadenusa, the shirish of the gvulim, of the oisios, is the din that is still in its profound state of refinement. It's the betzina, the kadenusa, the white fire on black fire. Ki chachma stimo shirish haTorah. Beside chachma koyachma, it's not the chachma of the osios, it's the koyachma, it's the potentiation towards the osios prior to the actualization of osios. And that ma. What's the Chachma? Chachma has within itself the awakening of the shlav of Torah that's going to be revealed on the level of Zer Anpin. It's rooted in Chachma. But when we awaken the shorish of Torah, which is the Chachma Stima'a, what we're doing is we're drawing down the lights of Atik Yoimin into the lights of Zer Anpin, and we're revealing the unity between Keser and Zah, where the Limud Torah down here becomes the rectification of the biggest rectifications. V'soid Chachma Koyachma. V'zeh chibur nimsa ben Chachma Stima'u ben Teferes Dezah. Now, the shirish of the Torah in Chachma Stima'a, which is the mayach of Keser, is fundamentally rooted with Tiferes Dezah, which is what we refer to as the Torah as we understand it. And that B'chol Kareinu Alav, when we're reading the Torah, we're drawing down the Torah of Atika Stima, we're drawing down the Torah of Geula into the Torah that we're learning, and there's going to be a fundamental unification. V'chachma Stima, it's HaMisnaheges min Atik Yermin. And Chachma Stima, as the lowest rosh of the Gimel Reishin of Keser, is where the Hanhaga of Atik Yermin comes from, meaning to say, for the Ramchal, when a person is learning Torah, you're drawing the Hanhaga Sayichud into the Hanhaga Samishpat, and you're allowing the Hanagas HaYichud of Atik Yoimin and Arach Anpin and Chachma Stima to be meskal itself within Zer Anpin, which goes from the Das of Zah down into the Tiferes of Zah, and that's where we're unifying the highest level of Keser and the lowest level of Zer Anpin, showing above and below to be fundamentally unified, and that's done through the Tikkun of the Shekhinah, as we're going to explain later on. Beside Hakruma da Avir, and the secret of that chrome, that small sheath that covers over the brain and the territory of the air of that Chachma Stima of Shamu Tikkun Gadol, and this is the biggest tikkun imaginable. Ube'emes im lamata netakin beside Maisa. But in truth, this second explanation that we just gave of just doing lemaisa, as haTorah shalamala mischaberes haTorah shalamata v'hainu Chachma Stima v'teferes, that even simply trying to draw something down by way of Maisa does all of these big tikkunim. You don't even have to be thinking about it. Iskalfin milan kan atikemen. And that word, that spiritual revelation, that point of clarification, that goodness that comes out from the human being's encounter with this worldliness, which is a sugya in Torah, is going to go up and it's going to be engraved within the engravings of all things. But if Rahman al it's not going to be fixed in the sight of a Maisa. This is why we understand that the enemies of Klal Yisrael have always been against the Maisa of Torah itself. Anything that comes to negate the Maisa of Torah, anything that comes to negate the hyper significance of engaging in this worldliness, specifically with our spiritual insights and drawing the transcendent ideals of Yichud Ilah down into the imminent ideals of Yichud Tata, it's a klipa. It's disconnecting the Torah from its source. The Iker is the Maisa, and when we're engaged in the Maisa, we're drawing down the highest lights of Reish Lo Siyada. We're drawing down the highest lights of Chachma Stima, of Atik Yoim and Yosef. And at that place, experience is meaningful. Experience is real. Every moment of human consciousness, every conscious moment that a Jew encounters reality is another opportunity to make the biggest fixing imaginable. To make the biggest fixing imaginable. And all it takes is to believe in it. All it takes is to believe in the words that the tzaddikim write. All it takes is to understand that in our generation, when things are so off course and off kilter, that the words of the tzaddikim are being revealed to have been speaking to us all along, and on our small levels of understanding, we're toifes a slight nakuda of the original intentionality of the author, and when we touch a slight nakuda of the original intentionality of the author, we touch the neshama of the author, and then we encounter yichud with the neshama of that author, with the neshama that drew down that Torah, and at that point, the tzaddikim are doing the work for us. We have the right to connect to tzaddikim as long as we do it al dasat tzaddikim. If we're doing everything we do al dasat tzaddikim, and we're not doing it on das atzmeinu, and we're not doing it based on what we think our spiritual grasps are, but rather we're mevutel ourselves to the Tzaddikei Hador, we're mevatel ourselves to the Moshe Rabbeinu in the generation, to each and every person's Moshe Rabbeinu in the generation. And in that place, a person has the ability of mamish, drawing down the Torah, kinesinas and misina, of rectifying the world and reaching that place of charis mina al haluchos, charis mimalachamabes. A life of meaninglessness is a life of destruction and emptiness. A life of meaning is a life of life. It's tchias amesim mamish. There's no word of Torah that doesn't bring with it tchias amesim, because we're drawing down the loftiest lights into the realm of Asiya Mamish. And Be'ezras Hashem, we should be zeichet to understand what we don't understand, and to read the words inside, and to understand that the tzaddikim gave us these words on the page so that we can write it. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu had it published in our generation, it's for us to read. And when we read these words, we can't but say, it's talking to me also. And Be'ezras Hashem, we should be zeichet.